Welcome in, everybody. This is week 6 of DFS. We finally got some bye weeks, a little bit smaller main slate here. Coming at ya, this is the Adjusted Line Play Report presented by Zilla Fantasy Elite. I am your host, Todd Hoffman. You can find me over on Twitter at Todzilla1337. You can find Zilla Fantasy Elite over on Twitter at Zilla Fantasy. Today's show is powered by Rain Total Body Fuel. Heck yeah, you looking to make it rain some cash in DFS? I know I am. Tune in to the Adjusted Line Play Report from Zilla Fantasy Elite. Follow host Todd Hoffman while he delivers the most accurate DFS advice in the industry and make it rain. That's right, folks, making it rain. Week 6, we're going to give you all the DFS goodies to make that money. Today's flavor is white gummy bear, folks. This is delicious. Oh, that's what I'm talking about, folks. Prevent last week's issue with a spill. Set that over there. Hopefully we're good to go. All right, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Again, this is the Adjusted Line Play Report. For those of you who are new, we're pitting the offense and defensive line against each other and looking at those specific matchups and how they rank. And as we go through, we're just going to go from the number 1 game on the main slate through the worst game in terms of Vegas game total, and then we'll hit up the island games on Sunday night and Monday night. Hopefully you can make those start-sit decisions in your home leagues, your dynasty leagues, your seasonal leagues, and then really win that money playing some of this stuff in DFS. So with that being said, we're going to get underway. Number 1 game on the slate. Everyone's been looking forward to this. Basically, 2 best teams in the NFL. Buffalo at Kansas City. We're heading into Kansas City as 2.5-point favorites if you're a Buffalo fan. So interesting enough there. Buffalo going into Kansas City as 2.5-point favorites. 28.25 team implied total. I believe that is number 1 on the slate this week. Kansas City at a 25.75 team implied total. And as we see, Vegas game total 54. I believe that's the highest this season. And we'll get underway. Breaking it down, we're going to first look at the Buffalo side for offense. They are 8th in pass protection and Kansas City 10th. It's kind of a matchup there that's pretty even. Usually that just means studs eat. On the offensive pass DVOA, we have Buffalo at 3, Kansas City 19. So that's a bigger favor for Buffalo. With it being kind of a stalemate in the other aspect, I expect Buffalo to have some efficiency here in the pass game. So keep that in mind. And then when we look at the run blocking, Buffalo is number 28 and 30 in run blocking and run DVOA, while Kansas City is number 13 and number 8. Don't expect Buffalo to be able to run the ball very effectively. It kind of goes against the grain as far as like how Buffalo utilizes their Singletary, basically going in there as the running back that's getting like 60-70% of the touches. Typically in the closer back and forth matchups, that's when Singletary has his bigger games. And then when they're blowouts or they're getting behind by a bunch, he's not really involved. I expect this one to be more of a back and forth affair. So that kind of flies in the face of how well the run game should be. I don't expect him to be efficient in this, but he is a play to get contrarian. This is going to be a very popular game as far as DFS is concerned. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Stephon Diggs, people like that. They're obviously going to be going after this highest game total on the slate by quite a bit. So you might have to get a little contrarian. Maybe Singletary's pretty popular this week, or maybe he's not. If you want to kind of navigate away from the Buffalo pass game, that's the way you can do it. On the Kansas City offensive side, coming in the pass protection, they're number 9 and number 4. And then Buffalo number 7 and number 6. So that's pretty evenly matched. Typically when it's evenly matched like that, that just means the studs are going to eat in that particular department. That's going to be Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, essentially. Don't really consider there being any other studs in the Kansas City pass game besides those 2. So expect Kelce to have a pretty solid matchup here. And then the run game side, pretty much mirror images of each other for Buffalo and Kansas City offense. Kansas City 18 and 19 in offensive run blocking. And then Buffalo coming in as number 1 and number 3. So huge advantages for the defenses in stopping the run in this, which means both offenses are going to have to pass the ball in order to move it effectively. Expect that to be done. And kind of looking at the offensive pace, Kansas City coming in as underdogs at home. Really, if this was in Buffalo, they'd be at like a plus 5.5, which means Kansas City likely to be behind. Or at least that's how Vegas has it. Kansas City, when they're trailing by 7 or more, they're number 3 in the league in terms of pace of play. And then Buffalo, when they're leading, they're number 11 in pace of play, and number 5 just overall in neutral situation, taking out like 2-minute drills or like the last 5 minutes of a half, or if somebody's up by 8 or more points in the third quarter, getting rid of those situations. Just seeing like when there's an offensive or a neutral situation in a game, how quickly do they play? Kansas City 12, Buffalo number 5. Expect this pace to be back and forth. I don't mind the over in this. They did play each other last year twice. Both of them hit at least 58 points. Don't see any reason why this couldn't be the exact same situation, other than a little bit less explosive offense there in Kansas City without Tyreek Hill this year. So keep that in mind. Very good game to attack in DFS. You got all sorts of options. Mostly interested in probably Kelsey in the Kansas City pass game as far as the studs eating, and then Buffalo kind of, if they're going to be efficient, it's probably going to be like Gabe Davis. He is pretty much the most efficient wide receiver that they have. And then Diggs, if you're looking at the studs eat kind of route. If you want to get contrarian, grab some of those running backs. Forgot to look it up, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire did go on the injury report yesterday, which was Thursday, I believe with the hamstring injury. So that's something to monitor. If he's out, it's wheels up for Jerick McKinnon and Isaiah Pacheco. They're going to be cheap, and you'll be able to get a lot more of these high-end options into your lineups with those guys, in your running back spot, and maybe a little bit way to get off of some of the other chalk plays. With that being said, let's get on to number 2 slate in the game, or on this slate, which is Arizona at Seattle. And we're looking at a 50.5 Vegas total here in this matchup. Arizona heading into Seattle as a 2.5-point road favorites, just like the last game. 2 road favorite teams here. Arizona 26.5 team implied total. Seattle 24. Vegas total again there at 50.5. Really, Arizona should throw up points pretty much everywhere in this particular matchup. We look at their offensive pass protection. It's actually number 7. Seattle 28 and 31 in defensive pass rush and pass DVOA. Arizona number 7 in pass protection, 23rd in offensive pass DVOA. Expect Arizona to be able to have more time than they're used to in this particular matchup, and be able to move the ball very effectively via the air. Looking at the ground, Arizona 11th and 16th in run blocking. Seattle 30th and 24. Seattle's red across the board there, meaning they are in the bottom 10 of every particular statistical category on defense here. That means Arizona's going to be able to move the ball. And when looking at your run blocking here, Benjamin, I had posted on Tuesday, should be in play in DFS. He's certainly going to be in all of your seasonal league lineups if you don't have any better options, but he should be really good in this game, getting a lot of volume. Keontae Ingram, also somebody to watch out for, especially I think he's a little bit bigger than Benjamin. You could see Keontae Ingram taking on more of the James Conner role when he's in there, being the big bully, coming in, pounding the rock, getting those goal line touches, doing the James Conner thing, and Benjamin kind of sits around and farts around like we had Edmonds doing last year, getting a few carries here and there, 5 or 6 carries, but then kind of handling all the pass down work. Remains to be seen how that works out in Arizona or in the Seattle matchup, but very interesting there, and definitely a way to get contrarian in some of these large field tournaments. Keontae Ingram, don't be surprised if he sneaks a few touchdowns in this game. A lot more viable there on FanDuel in that particular situation with the lower volume, but touchdown variance in his favor likely in this matchup. As far as the pass game, Seattle is just terrible against tight ends, so you could be looking at Arizona there with Zach Ertz, and then it sounds like not a lot of people are going to be playing Hollywood Brown here, and I don't understand why. He's like 12 and a half targets per game the last 4 weeks. The dude's just racking up all sorts of volume. Seattle's defense is terrible. This is a blow-up spot for him. Do like a lot of these players in the Arizona-Seattle game. Looks kind of interesting. As far as Seattle's offensive side is concerned, they're number 17 in offensive pass protection, number 1 in offensive pass DVOA. Very efficient there. Arizona 32nd and 27. Seattle should be able to throw the ball all over the place on Arizona, which is also good for the efficiency of the plays that are ran in this particular game. Expect there to be really efficient, high yards per reception in this, and just kind of moving the ball via the air. As far as the run game and Ken Walker, 15 and 12 for Seattle versus Arizona's 22 and 12. Not a huge mismatch there. He should be fine, but it's not a great or poor matchup. Usually in that studs eat. Is Ken Walker a stud? That remains to be seen, but he should be okay in the run game. 50.5 point total. Outside of the pace being a little weird for Arizona, they are number 4 in overall pace of play, total pace, like seconds per play. That's because they're trailing a bunch, and even though they're 11th in trailing, when trailing by 7+, that is the vast majority of their plays that they're running are when they're trailing, and they're at like a 25-second per play, and that's super fast, and it's just something to keep in mind. I don't expect Arizona necessarily to be trailing by that much in this particular game, so it could get a little stale there as far as pace of play, but both sides should be efficient when they do actually run the ball. And that'll do it for the second one. Let's get over to the third game on the slate. This one's kind of juicy as well. Tampa Bay at Pittsburgh. Juicy on one side of the ball, that is. So really, Buccaneers pass attack again. They should provide some solid numbers for a second straight week, and I really do like them this week. Defense could be in play this week as well, and we'll get into that. First, the offensive side. Tampa Bay going into Pittsburgh as 9.5 point road favorites. Wow. Tampa Bay 27.75 team implied total. Pittsburgh at 18.25. What's crazy is we had number 2 over at 50.5 points. We dropped from number 2 to number 3 game on the slate all the way down to 46. That is a huge drop in Vegas total, but we saw Tampa Bay 27.75. I think that might be the second highest total on the slate behind Buffalo this week. So they're expected to score a lot of points. Just this game in general not going to because of the Pittsburgh side, or at least Vegas says so. What say us? Tampa Bay offensive pass protection. Number 2, number 8 versus Pittsburgh, number 20, number 18. That should be in the favor of Tampa Bay pretty heavily there. I believe Pittsburgh got some injuries there in the defensive side, and Tom Brady is just going to eat. I think there's 3 or 4 defensive backs that are injured this particular week. TJ Watt's gone, so just it'll be all wheels up for the Tampa Bay pass game. As far as run blocking, Tampa's actually pretty bad. 27 and 29 versus Pittsburgh's number 8 and number 17 run defense. Don't expect the run game to be how they're moving the ball very effectively. It's going to be through the air. Tom Brady and Godwin and Evans, probably the only ones that you want. If you want a super deep dart throw, you could do the Cade Otton from Tampa Bay there, the tight end. Getting into the defensive side for Tampa Bay, they're number 1 in defensive pass rush and defensive pass DVOA. Pittsburgh 11 and 24 as far as offensive pass protection. Tampa Bay should be able to get after the quarterback in this. They should be up in this particular matchup and get plenty of scenarios while Pittsburgh is behind. We look at the pace of play. Pittsburgh number 5 in offensive pace of play when trailing by 7+. Likely means that Pittsburgh's going to have a bunch of pass attempts. That's just more attempts for sacks. That's more attempts for opportunities, for fumbles from the quarterback getting hit, swiped, strip sacks. It's more opportunities for interceptions when he's going back there. just Tampa Bay defense. That's why I say they could be super good this week. And don't expect Pittsburgh's pass game to necessarily be so great unless they're kind of keeping it underneath or quick. That's more the Deontay Johnson role without Pat Freiermuth. There could be interesting, funneling a little bit more targets to the wide receivers there. George Pickens has looked good the last couple of weeks while Deontay Johnson's kind of fell off. This could be one of those Deontay Johnson, he gets open and they're trying to get the ball out a little bit quicker, so he's the beneficiary of that. Keep an eye out for that. As far as the run blocking, Pittsburgh 20 and 26, Tampa Bay 20th and 14. Pittsburgh likely going to run the ball a little bit more effectively than passing it in this particular matchup, or at least find it a little bit more effective than the pass game. I still don't like Najee in this. The offense it's not good enough to support him. They're not passing the ball to him. They should, in theory, maybe with Pat Freiermuth out, maybe he sees a few more targets this particular matchup. That could be, especially if they're under duress, getting those dump-offs like he did last year. A little bit interesting there, but yeah, Pittsburgh pretty much going to need those quicker passes, and they'll likely be under pressure. So run game's pretty much okay, but nothing that you really are interested in attacking. So we'll go on to the fourth rated game here. That's two of them, actually. So we're tied for fourth, and we have two games here. Minnesota at Miami is one of them, and then we'll get into that one, and then we'll go up a little bit further to the Jets and Green Bay game. So we'll start off here. Minnesota at Miami, 45.5 Vegas game total. We have Minnesota at 24.25 team implied total. Going into Miami as 3.5-point road favorites. So Miami, the underdog here, 21.25 team implied total. And that is tied for fourth on the slate. As far as the offense is concerned here, Minnesota pretty much should see a nice explosion in the air attack. And it's probably a Justin Jefferson type week. Offensive pass protection, number 6. Miami, 23rd. Pass DVOA for Minnesota, 14. Pass DVOA for Miami, dead last, 32. Expect explosive plays on Minnesota's end. Explosive plays means Justin Jefferson. Maybe you see a KJ Osborne in there too, explosive play. But Justin Jefferson should eat in this. As far as run blocking, it's pretty much a stalemate. Studs eat. Dalvin Cook is a stud. You could see him have a solid week here too, but it looks like the pass game should be more effective, more efficient, and that's kind of how Minnesota operates anyway. Dalvin Cook should be fine, but unless he's catching a bunch of passes or breaking off some long runs, I don't expect him to have a super huge week. Couple touchdowns last week, but he's just not getting the volume like he used to, which is fine. He's got a shoulder injury. They're probably keeping him healthy for the playoffs. Number 7 and number 10 for Minnesota's run blocking. Miami number 4, number 7 there, so they're 3 in front of them both times. So Miami should have Minnesota's number there in the pass game or in the run game. Don't expect that to be as efficient, like I said. As far as Miami is concerned, really the pass attack will be one to watch. They got what's his face in there, Skylar Thompson coming in there at quarterback. Either way, he should find some success through the air here. Minnesota 16th and 26th in the pass rush. Miami number 12 and number 5 as far as DVOA. So we have a big DVOA difference there for Miami number 5 versus Minnesota 26. Miami also should have some explosive plays here on the pass game. And who's explosive? Tyreek Hill. Yeah, I like him too. I like Justin Jefferson in this matchup. Those are two guys that you could get one-offs in DFS as you're stacking some of these higher games. Get one of those guys, or bring it back if you can get some cheaper options and load both of those two into your lineup. Miami's run blocking is number 25 versus Minnesota 19, and then DVOA Miami 15 versus Minnesota 23. Kind of a wish-wash there. Don't expect Miami to have a huge run game there. We did see it last week with Mostert, but not expecting the same result this week. I think it's the pass games for both of these teams, and then Minnesota might be okay on the ground, but it's not something they utilize a ton of as far as Dalvin Cook's volume is concerned. Next, we're going to head up to Green Bay and the Jets, which is the next one on the slate. Let's see here. What do I have for some notes? Breece Hall, So let's get into him. I don't have the Vegas line on here. Let me actually double check the final output here. What did I put down here? 7.5. I'm not sure why that didn't transfer over. 7.5 Green Bay. 7.5 point home favorites there. So New York Jets going into Green Bay with the 45.5 point game total. And we're looking at New York Jets with a 19 point team implied total, with the Packers coming in at 26.5 point team implied total, which is pretty good. And Jets side, like I said, Breece Hall. Let's get into the Jets pass attack. 16-19 versus Green Bay 8-11. It's not a huge mismatch there, but I expect there to be a little bit more pressure on Zach Wilson this week. You could see a little bit more skittishness, a little bit more turnovers, some riskier plays as he's just kind of getting under attack. That could lead to some turnovers if you want to play that Green Bay defense. Other than that, on the run side, we have Jets 21-14. Not that good, but Green Bay 30th in run DVOA, 31 in stopping the run. So the Jets should be able to run all over them. Breece Hall is a certifiable stud. And really, when I posted this on Twitter earlier this week, I basically said Breece Hall may solidify himself as the RB1 or RB2 here in Dynasty this week. If he has another blow-up game, they're going to be like, okay, in Dynasty leagues, he's pretty much after Jonathan Taylor or just in front of Jonathan Taylor, and those are your two top dogs in Dynasty as far as running backs are concerned. As far as Green Bay is concerned in this particular matchup, we kind of talked about the defense there. 13th and 13th in pass protection versus Jets 11-23. Pass game should be okay. And then the run game, number 2 and number 3 for Green Bay. The Jets number 10 and number 19 at stopping the run. Green Bay should be a little bit more effective running the ball. But it's kind of more of the same old Green Bay offense. Slow-paced, kind of spreading out the offense in terms of passing the ball. Even the running backs kind of split the carries there. It's just, capping the absolute ceiling that any of these players will have. And really, if that's what you're looking for in DFS, Green Bay is a team to avoid unless you think it's like a Aaron Jones type week where he's going to score a few touchdowns and get a bunch of passing work. I don't see it in this particular matchup, so I'm avoiding Green Bay pretty much at all costs. And on the Jets side, as a one-off play, Breece Hall, don't expect the pass game to be super great there in New York with that Green Bay defense trying to get after them. So, all right, and now we're going to head into the number 6 game on the slate, which is Baltimore at the New York Giants. Baltimore 5.5 point road favorites in this. We're seeing a lot of road favorites. A 45 point game total, so just a half point behind the number 4 slots on the slate here. But we have Baltimore with a 25.25 team implied total. Giants coming in at 19.75. Baltimore's got a pretty solid game total there. And when we look at this, Ravens should be able to move the ball pretty well. Number 14 and number 2 in the offensive pass protection. Giants 21-24. Baltimore should be able to pass the ball just fine. We have more injury news that just kind of cropped up here. Rashad Bateman, foot issue, out. Devin Duvernay certainly in play, but it's really just more Mark Andrews targets. He should be a very solid play in all formats. And then on the run blocking side, Baltimore 26-13, the Giants 29-21. Pretty much a stalemate there. We could see J.K. Dobbins having a somewhat efficient game here, finding a little bit easier than normal to run the ball, perhaps getting a little extra volume in this if Baltimore finds themselves up like Vegas is expecting. Could get a little interesting. As far as the Giants are concerned, you know what? We better get some of that body fuel in here. Make it rain, folks. All right. Baltimore. On defense, number 18 and number 10 in the defensive pass rush versus the Giants 31-15. Expect the Giants to be under pressure in this particular matchup, or Baltimore to be able to get sacks, at least get in there and get after Daniel Jones there, Danny Dimes. I don't expect the pass game here to do much. Not interested in playing pretty much anyone on that pass game other than Barkley, and this is going to be a Barkley week. If the Giants are going to be under pressure when passing the ball, it's probably going to be a lot more dump-offs to Barkley. And we look at the run side, Giants 17 and 6th in offensive run blocking and run DVOA. Baltimore 27 and 26. So they're in the bottom, 5 to 8 teams there. Giants should have no problem running the ball on them, and Barkley is a certifiable stud. You should see targets, and you should see very efficient run game. Barkley certainly in play in all formats. If you can get him into your lineups this week, feel free, but there's a lot of high-end people that are going to be kind of begging for your attention this week with Diggs and Jefferson and Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews. If you can get Barkley in some of your lineups, though, I think he's going to have a good week. And pretty much the only person from the Giants that you're going to want as a one-off situation, cash game type thing. I think Barkley is about as safe as it gets. We'll head over to the number 7 game on the slate. It's the Atlanta game. We have San Francisco heading into Atlanta. Surprise, surprise. What do we have here? Another road favorite. San Francisco at a 44.5 point game total. Going into Atlanta as 5-point road favorites. 24.75 team implied total. Atlanta sitting there at 19.75. And when we go up and look at San Francisco on the offensive pass protection side, 15th and 11th. Atlanta 31st and 20th. San Francisco should have plenty of time to pass. Debo should have a good week. And usually when there's more time to pass, they can get some longer passes to Ayuk. We have some pretty effective pass play ever since Garoppolo got in there. He's been very efficient. EPA over expected is like top 5 in the league since he's kind of taken over there. So expect this pass game to be pretty good in this. The run game, San Francisco 23rd and 21st. Atlanta 28th, 27th. San Francisco always kind of known as the run-first team. Not really a great matchup in this, but studs eat. Jeff Wilson seeing a lot of volume there. I think we have Tyrion Davis-Price actually listed as questionable, not doubtful this week. Will be interesting to see if he gets in and steals any touches this particular week. But pass game should be very effective for San Francisco. Run game should be fine, but I'd be more interested in the pass game in this particular matchup. It shows that that'll be effective and efficient, and I do like San Francisco's chances of exploiting that. On the Atlanta side, really it's the run game that's likely going to be leading the way for them again. And they're going to need a lot quicker passes if they're under pressure here. So number 25 in offensive pass protection, 18th in offensive pass DVOA for Atlanta. San Francisco number 3 and number 5. We do have Bosa out now with an injury. That could play into that a little bit. And then on the run stopping side, San Francisco number 2 and number 1 in stopping the run. Again, Bosa injured, so that's probably going to affect those numbers a little bit, but obviously they're good. Atlanta 8 and number 2. So they're used to being able to run the ball very effectively. With Bosa out, San Francisco still should be pretty good, but they might be a little bit worse, and that might be how Atlanta ends up moving the ball in this. Tyler Algier, Caleb Huntley, those are the guys that you're probably going to see in there. Cordell Patterson out on IR. Not super interested in the pass game there for Atlanta. They're going to need quicker passes from the look of it. And really, that's like Olamide Zaccheaus. No thanks. Pitts and London should both be playing in here. Do they see a bunch of volume? I don't think so. It seems like Arthur Smith doesn't necessarily want to give them more than 5 or 6 targets in the game. I don't know why. It seems like they're 2 best players and just not utilized very well. And I don't expect them to have a good game in this particular matchup either. Expect the run game to be a little bit more effective, but Atlanta just to be kind of losing in this particular matchup. Not super great for anybody starting any Atlanta Falcons this particular week. Let's get on with the next game. We're going to go to number 8 on the slate, which is New England going into Cleveland. That's a interesting one here, and it's going to be very popular in DFS as far as Ramondre Stevenson. And we look at New England going into Cleveland, 43.5 point Vegas game total. 2.5 point underdogs New England are going into Cleveland. 20.5 team implied total for New England, 23 for Cleveland as the favorite. As far as the offensive pass protection, 21 and 26 on New England, 22 versus 16 for Cleveland. Really, the quarterback situation's up in the air currently. We have Mac Jones questionable. We have Bailey Zappi playing okay as a rookie and kind of keeping the ball moving. I don't expect this to be great, but it should be fine. If they need to pass, I think they'll have at least some time to do it. That means Jacoby Myers in play. And on the run blocking side, that's where it gets fun. Cleveland dead last in both run stopping and defensive run DVOA. They just get blasted in the run game. Ramondre Stevenson looks to be the only guy in town to be running the ball. Could get interesting with Pierre Strong there. Does he come in and take 10, 12, 15 touches? I don't think so. He's been inactive for a lot of these games. Or not inactive, but just not getting a ton of play there. But we see New England number 3 in offensive run blocking, number 11 in the DVOA, and then Cleveland dead last about those situations. Ramondre Stevenson certainly in play in DFS. He's going to be super popular. Cash play for sure is going to smash on that particular matchup. But GPPs, he's probably going to be 20 to 40% owned depending on the tournament. I don't know if I want a piece of that in the tournament. He's certainly going to be good on a projection basis. He should smash according to this, but you never know. These things don't always go the way that you expect, and he could just come out and give you 12 points. And if 40% of the field is given 12 points in their running back spot, and you're getting upwards of 25, 26 from both of your guys, that's a huge advantage, especially if they're a little bit lower rostered. Stevenson in a large field tournament, maybe somebody to avoid or pivot off of just in case he has that bad game. You're getting lots of leverage on the field. But certainly going to have him in a few lineups because I think he's going to be good this week. On the Cleveland side, number 4 in offensive pass protection, number 10 in pass DVOA. Pretty good. New England, though, both top 10, number 9 and number 8. Should be kind of a stalemate there. I think Cleveland's pass game will be just fine. Not entirely sure on this if it's going to be a little bit quicker passes. You can expect like Hunt and maybe Harrison Bryant and Amari Cooper to be the beneficiaries of that particular type of game. And will be interesting to kind of see if Hunt has a few more pass attempts, or not pass attempts, but potential opportunities to catch passes there. In the run blocking side, Cleveland should be almost as good as New England. They're number 6 and number 1 in run blocking and run DVOA. New England 21 and 28. Nick Chubb should eat in this again. If you're playing over on DraftKings, fully expect him to hit the 100 yards, probably give you a touchdown as well in this matchup. Where I said it gets interesting is Hunt. If New England's moving the ball just fine on them, Cleveland trying to, stay balanced there on the pass game. Hey, getting some pressure here from the New England side. Maybe it's just dump offs to Kareem Hunt, and you see him with a few more receptions on those PPR sites or PPR leagues that you're playing in. He's certainly in play in this particular matchup as well. That's number 8 game on the slate at 43.5 point Vegas total. Next is Cincinnati at New Orleans, and we have a 43-point game total coming in here into New Orleans. Is Cincinnati. Wow, another road favorite. 2.5 point road favorite here for Cincinnati going into New Orleans without Jameis Winston. We got Andy Dalton under center for the 3rd week in a row. Cincinnati at 22.75 team implied total. New Orleans at 20.25. And again, that Vegas game total number 43. This game is pretty much an avoid as far as I'm concerned. I'm looking at Cincinnati 27th in offensive pass protection. That's kind of gross. Really not much to glean there. 22nd in the pass DVOA. New Orleans 12th and 13th. So significantly better there. Pass game not looking great for Cincinnati. Then you go to the run game. 22nd and 28th for Cincinnati. New Orleans 15th and 10th at stopping the run. Don't expect the run game to be very efficient either. Cincinnati, I am not a super fan of this week. I got a lot of Cincinnati players spread throughout all of my leagues. but I'm kind of tempering my expectations. Obviously, got to start Jamar Chase. T. Higgins, if it looks like he's kind of off the injury list and going to be good to go, certainly got to get him into your lineups, unless you got somebody you think is way better than that this particular week. I doubt it with the bye weeks. T. Higgins is going to be in your lineup, but I just would temper your expectations about how well this is going to be. If Cincinnati's under duress a little bit, you could see a little bit more dump-offs to Mixon and Hayden Hurst, which wouldn't be too bad for Mixon because it doesn't look like the run game is going to be super effective in this. New Orleans defense certainly in play as a sneaky option. And then on the New Orleans offensive side, we have them at 22 and 27 in pass protection. Cincinnati 29, but number 7 in the pass DVOA. So they're not really kind of an enigma there. I don't think New Orleans pass game is going to be super great based off of that. But the run game looks a little bit more promising. Number 4 and number 4 for New Orleans versus Cincinnati's 12 and 11. They should be able to move the ball more effectively on the ground, and I fully expect them to do that with Andy Dalton starting. My fatal flaw last week was saying, hey, New Orleans run game is absolutely going to smash, get Kamara into all of your lineups. Kamara had like 190 yards, great play, but I also failed to realize New Orleans run game, they don't have an RB2 necessarily. A lot of people think it's Ingram, but hey, guess what? We have Taysom Hill. He's coming in there getting 4 to 7 touches per game, passes, run, targets, you name it. He's kind of getting 7 to 10 touches, and I failed to realize that he was part of that run game, kind of as an RB2, and he absolutely smashed last week. I had no shares of him anywhere. Obviously, he's a quarterback on DraftKings, so not that great, but as a tight end on FanDuel, he absolutely blew up and won people a lot of money. The 2.5% of people who started him in that tight end slot certainly gained it. Could be the same thing this week. Just keep that in mind. Kamara looks like a great play, and we should see Taysom Hill, if he gets in there, be pretty effective in the run game, as we've seen him be. Otherwise, kind of a boring matchup here. Maybe the best matchup of all is New Orleans defense and New Orleans run game, which, hey, you want to play that stack, New Orleans defense, run it back with the running back. Not too bad of an idea there. Got 2 more games left, just 11 total on the slate. Number 10 is Jacksonville at Indy, and then we have number 11, Carolina at the Rams. We'll head up to Jacksonville and Indy here, just a few clicks up. And we got an interesting one here. I think we can get a few players off of this particular matchup. And we're looking at Jacksonville 2-point road dogs in this. Indianapolis 2-point home favorites. And it's a 42-point game total from Vegas. So Indianapolis 22 team implied points, Jacksonville 20 team implied points. But here's where it gets interesting. Jacksonville number 5 in offensive pass protection, number 9 in pass DVOA. Indianapolis 15 and 21. That's a pretty plus matchup for Jacksonville. We quick run over to the running back side. 30th and 27th for Jacksonville. Indianapolis 3rd and 2nd. Don't expect Jacksonville to be able to move the ball on the ground very effectively. This is a pass game for Jacksonville. Fully expect Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Marvin Jones, and maybe Evan Ingram, the tight end there, to have pretty solid games in this, as I think Jacksonville is going to move the ball through the air, as they're not going to be able to run the ball very effectively in this. Should be a solid matchup there. Trevor Lawrence probably not in play, but if you want a one-off cheap option, Zay Jones this week, yet again. Marvin Jones, a little bit more expensive than him on DraftKings, but 2 options that are cheap if you want to get in some of these more expensive plays this week. Fully expect to get Zay Jones exposure if he's looking like he's healthy to play. Kind of want to avoid the run game. You could maybe say, hey, Travis Etienne, is he part of the pass game? I don't think so in this particular matchup. If they've got time, maybe he's running some routes, but that remains to be seen so far. As far as the Indianapolis side, we have Indy number 30 and number 32 in offensive pass protection. Jacksonville 25th and 9th in defensive pass DVOA. More of a favor for Jacksonville. Indy maybe finds some extra time to throw the ball that they're not used to. And that's really pretty much how they're going to have to move the ball, is through the air. Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman, Paris Campbell, maybe the tight ends if you think they're going to be under pressure. dropping the ball off a little bit quicker. Because the run game, 31st and 32nd for Indianapolis. Jacksonville, 6th and 9th at stopping the run. Again, both run games in this should be poor. Pass games are probably going to have to be where it's at. And I just kind of listed off all of the people from Indianapolis that you'd even be interested in. Could get, skinny stack, small stack here where you get one wide receiver from Jacksonville, one from Indy. Hope that they get you the 120 yards and a touchdown in this particular matchup. Otherwise, I'm kind of staying away from that unless I'm getting the Jacksonville defense and hoping they're kind of getting after Indianapolis there on the pass game. Could be a little bit interesting. Otherwise, not much to glean from number 10 game on the slate, right? So we'll head down to the 11th game on the slate. It's an afternoon game. It is the Rams, and it is Carolina with a new head coach. We're a little bit too far there. Carolina at the Rams. Should be kind of interesting to see how Carolina plays in this particular matchup. And really, offensive pass protection for Carolina, 28 and 31. Los Angeles Rams, 13 and 17. They should be able to get after the quarterback there, which is P.J. Walker this week. Rams are actually 10-point home favorites here with a 41.5-point game total, which tells you how low Carolina is. The Rams, 25.75 team implied total. Carolina, 15.75 team implied total gross. Run game's pretty much going to be where it's at for Carolina, 12th and 17th versus Rams, 14 and 5. Don't expect that to be good either. Carolina's probably not viable anywhere. Christian McCaffrey, you kind of got to start. DJ Moore, I think, is sittable at this point until we see any sort of positivity from this Carolina offense. You just can't trust them. On the Rams side, defense obviously in play there if they're going to get after the quarterback. As far as the offensive side, they're red across the board. 26-25 in pass protection, 29 and 25 in the run blocking. Cam Akers ruled out for personal reasons. I don't know what those are. If that's team, I haven't seen too much on that. Just keep an eye on that. Darrell Henderson, he is going to be the main back there this week. As far as Carolina's defense, 30th and 22nd in the pass rush. Not good, but neither is the Rams' offensive line. And then in the run blocking, they should be okay. They're 18th and 16th, a little bit bigger advantage there over the Rams. I just expect this game to be kind of gross. If anyone's going to hit the under on this, maybe the Rams hit the under on their team implied total. This game could hit the under. It's just kind of gross all around. Cooper Kupp is the one that you're going to want to play from the Rams, and pretty much no one else. Maybe Higbee in your seasonal leagues as far as tight end landscape being kind of gross. Anyway, that's the main slate. We'll get into the island games here. First one is Sunday Night Football, which football-wise is a great matchup. We got the 5-0 Philadelphia Eagles at home hosting the 4-1 Dallas Cowboys. Hey, who would have thought with Dak going down week 1, right? So Dallas heading into Philadelphia as 6.5-point road underdogs. Philadelphia, 6.5-point home favorites. Dallas, 17.75 team implied total. Philly, 24.25 for a Vegas total of 42 points. On the offensive side for Dallas, number 10 and number 17 in offensive pass protection. Philly, 5 and 3rd. They should be able to get after the quarterback fairly decent in this. This could be one of those Cooper Rush games where, hey, they're getting after you. What can you do, boy? We'll see. It'll be interesting. A lot of times they lock onto their number one target or who's ever open underneath. That could be the running backs in this particular matchup. We'll see. On the run blocking side, 16 and 9 for Dallas. Philly, 16 and 20 at stopping it. A little bit more in the favor of Dallas there. Maybe they find it a little bit more efficient to run the ball. Zeke game, probably not. Pollard game, probably not. So interesting there, but Philadelphia defense could be in play if you think, hey, this is the game where Cooper Rush finally shows that he's a backup in the league, right? So as far as Philly's offense is concerned, 20th and 7th in offensive pass protection. Dallas really good at getting after the quarterback. They're 2nd and 4th. Expect more of the same here. Can they corral Mr. Hurts? Probably. I expect a few sacks in this, but he is highly mobile, big dude. Expect this to be kind of physical behind the line. If they're getting after him, taking him down, he could see a few more mistakes show his colors too. If people don't think he's that good of a quarterback, this could be one of those situations where, hey, he's getting pressured, and we're seeing him falter. We're seeing him make mistakes. Doesn't look that good, etc. As far as the run game is concerned for Philly, it's very similar to Dallas. It's probably a little bit more of an efficient matchup, this particular thing. 10-5 for Philadelphia, Dallas 11th and 18th. They should find a little bit easier to run the ball than passing it this week. We could see them, perform here. I don't think it's going to be Gainwell or Boston Scott. Probably the Miles Sanders show in this particular matchup. If you think Philadelphia's going to be under duress, hey, you could be getting some Gainwell targets. That remains to be seen as well. But as far as an island game, if you're looking at DFS in this, it's not so great for your seasonal matchups. But island game DFS, you could get sneaky here with some of your running backs and pairing them with the defenses, especially Philadelphia or Dallas one-offs, kind of building it that way, creating a game script where that defense is getting out of control. Played both defenses. If you think this is going to be one of those lower scoring affairs where the defense is dominating, getting sacks, getting turnovers, maybe scoring once on one side to get both of them in there, and try to get those big hitters like an A.J. Brown, and on the Dallas side you get the volume plays with CeeDee Lamb, and kind of go from there. And Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, two defenses, CeeDee Lamb, and somebody cheap. That could be where you go in this particular matchup, and probably going to be successful in this, not lighting your money on fire. Last game is Monday Night Football. We got another gross one with Denver on the dang prime time. Ugh, they're disgusting to watch, and we just keep having to watch them in prime time, right? What are you going to do? We do have a 45.5 point Vegas game total here. Chargers 25 team implied total. Denver 20.5 team implied total. That means Chargers are 4.5 point home favorites. On the Denver side, 24th in offensive pass protection, 21st in offensive pass DVOA. Chargers 14th and 12th. They should be able to get after the quarterback. Russell's dealing with some injuries there in his lat and his throwing shoulder. Just going to be all the more problems for Denver's pass game probably in this. Denver's run blocking side, number 9 and 23. Chargers 17 and 22. Kind of a stalemate there, but Denver's run game should be a little bit more effective than the pass game in this one. Mike Boone, we saw have some pretty effective runs last week. Gordon could come in here and have himself, a fairly decent day. Give him 12, 15 carries, and he'll probably produce a decent amount for you. Otherwise, Denver's pass attack, nothing to write home about. They're probably going to have to do a little bit quicker throws. If Judy's open, could be that. Sutton's certainly big and can get contested catches. So no real takeaways from the Denver pass game here. On the Chargers side, we have number 1 in offensive pass protection and number 6 for pass DVOA, but the Broncos are number 6 and number 2 in the defensive pass DVOA. Expect that to be a very good matchup. Chargers probably going to have a little bit less time than they're used to. Not really sure if Keenan Allen's health, if he's going to be back this week. Doesn't sound like it. So if you got some Mike Williams underneath, that would be good. Could be one of those Gerald Everett. He's, 6-7 yard down the field kind of target guy. This could be a Gerald Everett week. Getting him in this island game would probably be a smart choice. The Chargers on the run side are 24th and 24th. Denver 26th and 15th at stopping the run. Chargers might find it a little bit easier than normal to run the ball against Denver, but wouldn't expect that to be necessarily super efficient either. Both kind of a stalemate here as far as their offense is concerned, running and passing the ball. Typically what that means is studs eat. That's Eckler and probably Mike Williams, and we're getting some signs that Everett, not necessarily a stud, but based off of this matchup, you might find himself a few more targets. So that'll be that game, and that'll do it for the adjusted line play report this week, folks. Thanks for watching. Head out, hit that subscribe button. Follow me over on Twitter at Todzilla1337. Follow Zilla Fantasy Elite on Twitter at Zilla Fantasy. Thanks for watching. I am the host with the most. Let's go win some money together, folks. Thanks for watching. Peace.